Quite a while ago, there was a rumor that a vampire appears in the forest in my neighborhood. I've been an occult lover since I was a kid, so it got me on so badly when I heard about the rumor. I just couldn't sit still, so I called a couple of my friends to gather up at night for a vampire hunt. But we were still in junior high back then, and our parents never tolerated our night venture into the forest. So, we decided to gather up after school and head into the forest directly. And the day came. It was just a familiar place for us, but we walked very carefully not to lose our way, since the forest was large enough to have many people get lost in the woods every year. At first, we strolled around the forest, feeling as if we were on a great adventure, but once it got misty and low visibility, we got tense all at once and fell into silence. After a little while, it became so foggy and dim as to keep the sunset glow from coming into the forest. "Hey, let's go home." When one of my friends whined out feebly, to my surprise, the other boys agreed with the idea of going home, saying, "Yeah, he's right. We'd better head home before we get lost." As for me, I wanted to keep going, but I didn't have a courage to stay in the foggy forest all alone, so I had no choice but get on the way back home with them. While on the way, I noticed something strange. We had one redundant sound of footsteps. And I said, "Hey, someone is following us," to my friends walking ahead of me, when they got panicked and started running away in a stampede. Since it was a really dense foggy forest, soon we strayed from the path and everyone got away from everyone. I was scared as well, so I was just dashing forward frantically until I hit a tree with my own head and lost consciousness. When I woke up, the fog was gone, but it was in the dead of night. Fortunately, the moon was shining on the forest, so I wasn't scared that much. I was just thinking if I should go home immediately or look for the other boys while looking around nervously, when a young woman came out of nowhere and asked me,
"Are you okay? You're bleeding from your forehead."
I was caught off guard and just answered her question quickly before I knew it. Yes, I'm all right." And then she said,
"Well, that's good,"
and stroked my head with no expression on her face. Generally speaking, most of the people would feel uncanny if they got their heads stroked by a woman whom they met in a night forest, but I somehow felt at ease. What are you doing here? You must be." I already half knew that she was the vampire everybody was talking about, but I wasn't so sure, so I asked her in case. "By any chance, are you the vampire everybody's talking?" Then she answered with only one word.
"Yeah."
Nonchalantly while looking up at the moon. The moment she said, "Yeah," a deep fear came over me from my gut, but I continued to ask her questions while stepping back with fear. "You are. You're not gonna kill me and suck my blood, are you?" She glanced at me and said only one word again.
"No, I won't."
Before she looked back and continued gazing at the moon. It didn't seem she intended to harm me. And it was very unlikely that she would come after me even if I had fled from her, so maybe I should have left the place immediately, but I didn't. I think I was already fascinated by her mysterious charm at that time. Without thinking well, I asked her, "Hey, why are you staring at the moon that long?" And then she glanced at me again and said,
"Because I can't see the sun. The moon is my sunshine."
I just said, "Is that so?" and tried looking up at the moon with her. We gazed at the moon for a while, and then she suddenly turned her face towards me and said,
"Hey, do you mind if I lick the blood on your forehead? I haven't had anything for days."
I took a little while before answering her. "No, that's cool." Then she slowly came closer to me. And she put her hands on my cheeks tenderly and started slurping the blood. It was so embarrassing, awkward and tickling. I still clearly remember the unexplainable mixed feelings of fear and pleasure I got when she did it. After a bit, she said,
"Thank you, it's done."
and tried to leave there with no more words. Wait. Can we meet again tomorrow? I was asking her so before I knew it. She nodded a little happily and disappeared into the darkness of the night. I lingered on there while looking at the direction she walked away. About 10 minutes later, I could hear my friends calling my name from a distance. Following up their voices in the forest for a bit, I could finally find them. They had got mud and grazes all over their bodies, but they were all right with no serious damage. "Hey, I'm glad you are all safe." When I said so to the boys, they put kind of an amazed look on their faces and said, "That's our line. We were so worried about you, since you were the only missing one, so we thought you might have killed by the vampire." My heart skipped a beat, and I told them, "No way. The vampire thing, it was just a rumor, I guess." After that, we started walking home while trying to come up with good excuses to give to our parents. And I didn't talk about her with anyone, because I wanted to keep it only to myself. You wanna know if I went see her the next day? I did, but I really don't want to share the story with anyone, sorry.